because he forgot where he knew her from.
Okay, we're going live to YouTube, just so you know.
Well,
That
you guys
feels-
both have types.
That feels better.
I should put that in the app.
So did he ask her out after they were divorced or while they were married still?
And we are live to YouTube. And we're going live to
And then
Facebook.
how did they meet? Why was he online? Ugh. She's like, no.
She knew who he was.
Of course.
Okay, guys, we're live to Facebook too. If anyone wants to share it, so I'm just gonna
I will.
Javier just. Okay, and let me connect the chat, and then we'll be ready for the commercial. So, hey, everyone, or anyone who might be joining us, as always, thanks for watching the show. If you don't mind sharing it, we always appreciate that. And then if you want to comment and join the conversation, just comment below the video on the Wrong About Everything show page or the Wrong About Everything YouTube channel. So we'll be starting very shortly. Davis, did I sound check you?
I'm not
I
certain.
gotcha.
Okay.
Okay, ready for the commercial. And I'll close the door.
Support for Wrong About Everything comes from Minnesota's credit unions. Credit unions are locally based, member-owned financial cooperatives that return earnings to members through higher savings rates, lower loan rates, and reduced fees. Visit mncun.org for more information.
Hey, everybody. Welcome to another episode of the Wrong About Everything podcast. I am Republican strategist and Twin City Sugar, Brian McDaniel.
I am small business attorney Davis Senseman.
I am former Republican Senate Majority Leader Amy Koch.
I am progressive strategist and the Puerto Rican Heat, Javier Murillo. And we are
Wrong About Everything.
Everything.
Javier, you are
I'm on
points,
Zoom again.
points unknown.
Yes, I'm Point's very well known on the west side of St. Paul. Sorry to be zooming in again, guys, but my old man back is still hurting, and driving hurts it more. So
Well, I understand that boomers go through a lot of health stuff, so
Yeah.
that makes sense.
okay, you know what? You need to settle down with that hate language. Like that's really uncalled
I'm
for.
sorry.
As the youngsters on
Yeah.
the
Doesn't
podcast,
even
Davis
feel
and
good,
I,
Yeah. My back's great.
Oh,
I was
youngsters.
just at the gym before this.
now we'll have people under 40 tune in and go, youngsters.
yeah, well,
Yeah.
we're gonna get Javier one of those chairs that kind of slowly that raises itself up and helps nudge him out into the world.
I will leave this podcast right now. I will walk out. I will turn this Zoom off. You assholes.
I will push this button right now.
Yeah.
I will try to get out of the Zoom conversation as
Well-
soon as I understand how to mute myself and storm away.
Old man
End
yells
meeting
at
for
cloud.
all.
All right. Well, we are three of us at least are deep within the what's the
basement.
what's
The tranches.
the tranches
Yeah.
of
We
The
should-
trenches.
It is Minnesota Credit Union Network Studios.
Yes,
so
Minnesota
yes.
Credit
it is
Union
deep
Network
in the
Studio-
tranche.
at NBC Studios here in Northeast Minneapolis. Our comedian / producer Gabe Noah is able. He's shutting the door right now, but he in a few seconds he will be ably manning the board. And we also want to direct you towards our website at www.wrongaboutEverything-podcast.com.
Love that website. Thank you, Dustin Greggy and Honey Hive Digital.
And everyone should drive around town on the off chance that you see us on a billboard. It's like a Where's Waldo. Hey everybody, drive around like the 494, 694 loop, and if you see us, let us know, and we'll let you sign up for our Patreon as a special
We'll
gift.
let you.
as a special gift.
We'll let you sign on without Javier berating you.
Yeah. Whatever. All right. So we also want to thank our good friends at Bradshaw and Bryant. Their entire team of attorneys and staff is dedicated to providing the legal advice you need, combined with the service and personal attention you deserve. If you have questions about how they can assist you with a personal injury, wrongful death, or criminal defense matter, do not hesitate to contact them. Consultations are free. Please contact them at 800-770-7008 or at minnesotapersonalinjury.com. I sent them a potential client just this week.
Oh, really?
Yeah. They
Another ex-wife?
They won't. Rude. Suppose now we're even. I'm sorry for being gone last week, guys.
We're still
Oh, were you gone?
Yeah, he was.
Well, hey,
Yeah. Well, you had family business to
I'm,
attend to.
I'm willing to storm off as well. 'Cause there's a McDonald's not that far away from here, and I can use some McNuggets. But anyway, I trust that Senben ably
Defended Your Honor.
defended. Well, no, I have no honor,
Yeah.
and she's smart
Yeah.
enough not to defend it. But anyway, so let's get to the Minnesota news and the federal news.
Elections.
This week are similar. So we'll start off with what happened with the Minneapolis City Council.
Woo.
I think it largely went the way people thought it would go. There were a couple ones that were touch and go and a little surprising. I think that depending on who you talk to, Council President was Andrea Jenkins was either going to narrowly win or narrowly lost. And through the wonders of ranked choice voting, boo, whoosh, flush that dumbass stuff. But through the wonders of ranked choice voting, it looks like by the narrowest of margins that Councilmember Jenkins did retain her seat. It's probably close enough that it's recountable. But that was something.
Also,
It's-
Ward 7, which was an open seat, right? That was Katie
Yeah,
Cashman.
Katie
and-
Cashman.
That was Lisa Goodman's seat.
And pulled it out with, again, I think was up by about 30 votes on the first ballot. And then through the miracle of ranked choice voting, boo!
Ranked choice voting.
Was it,
One person,
actually,
one
that way,
vote.
so that
No
was person-
good.
was-
That's no good. Let's make there be math.
I mean, it happened pretty quick. I don't know what's going on in St. Paul. Why
Yeah,
it takes them 3
it's
days.
just Ramsey
But, like-
County and St.
but, like,
Paul. and
Minneapolis
we
did
got
that pretty
stuff.
quick this morning.
St. Paul did pass the 1% sales tax. Congratulations to our neighbors. We now have the highest sales tax in the state, making us so competitive.
You're going to fix your roads, right?
No, they won't.
They won't even
That's
plow
what they
'em.
say.
going
They
to your
can't even
roads.
plow. Here's what ticks me off. All this other stuff that they're spending money on, right? Like $50 for each child born in St. Paul for a college fund. I mean, come on. That's not the job of the city. And that's like that. And yet you got potholes the size of, small Volvos that people are dropping their cars
Well, you're
into and
getting
their
your,
children.
you're getting your roads now.
No.
They're going to get fixed.
Well, maybe
Right?
maybe that's where
Javier?
they're hiding all the Kias.
Javier's the secret mayor of St. Paul.
No, he's the mayor of trash.
No, he's retired from trash. See how I defend you?
Yes, I've retired. I'm retired from trash. Like the voters of St. Paul decided to pass a levy tax on ourselves to improve our roads. That's how government should work. That's a good thing. Like if Amy doesn't want to pay for roads, Amy should go back and live in
It's the highest
Bright
sales tax
County.
in the state. We already have competitive and business issues, and the roads should have been fixed ahead of a lot of the other stuff that they have been spending money on. It's not a question
You
of fix
should
the roads or
definitely
don't
live in
fix
Wright
the
County.
roads. It's about an efficient use of your money. St.
Right,
Paul.
like I said, the voters have spoken, and you are once again outside the mainstream as in most issues this
because you
election.
drive on the roads. Yeah, I get it. They want their roads fixed, and I guess this is how the only way we're going to get them maybe fixed. Because they're truly awful. They're the worst roads in the state. When you are trying to get around in the winter, they're barely plowed. Most of them aren't plowed. It's just people drive over them.
Shorter Amy Koch is St. Paul has the worst roads, and voters are wrong to want to do anything about it.
That is
No,
correct.
I'm saying I get why they
Yeah.
want to do something about it. I'm saying why did it have to come to an additional 1% sales tax on a city that's already struggling to keep businesses instead of the other money that could be spent, which they had spent on other things that are not outside their purview.
Because things cost money. Because
No.
government costs money.
No, because
and
they want to
and
spend
St. Paul
on things
voters
like $50 for kids to for college.
And again, Amy, voters in St. Paul are on board with that. You're outside the mainstream here. Voters voted for this. Voted for the people who are making those policies.
I acknowledge that they did. I'm just saying they're wrong. So they can be wrong in my eyes.
No, exactly. Go take your cranky ass to Wright County.
No, I'm just saying those roads won't be fixed either.
No, she likes your
St.
amenities.
Paul, love it or leave it. Amy.
Love it.
What?
She can't even get to Wright County.
St. Paul, love it or leave it.
Listen, I'm still there. We don't know how long.
Yeah, who knows?
Yeah. Who needs where's the car box when you need it?
Right. Nope, that doesn't exist anymore.
No. I'd like to thank Mayor Luke Hellier and the Lakeville City Council for having wonderful roads. Thank you.
I want to point out St. Paul now has an all-women city council.
Yeah, they do.
We'll have an all-women. I think we're waiting to see who the woman and in the east side of St. Paul will be. Shaniqua Johnson is ahead on the first ballot, but there are still enough remaining ballots out to see. And I think the results in Minneapolis, so that the council president barely hung on to her seat. I think Katie Cashman was a real surprise because the sort of all it was a very bad night for all of Minneapolis.
Yes.
The PAC aligned with Mayor Fry. That has thrown down so hard in the last two election cycles, and I think they continue to prove that they have one analysis of the city that was, I think, to overinterpret the results of the 2021 referendum on the question of the reimagined police department, and continue to, and for all of the vitriol aimed at DSA endorsed candidates, the DSA endorsed candidates won.
Was Katie Cashman DSA endorsed?
No,
she was
all
not.
of Minneapolis all of Minneapolis lumped her in all their emails. They were like, she has been endorsed by Minneapolis for the Many, and they are literally the Antichrist. I mean, that's what the emails basically said.
Well, yeah, but I mean, so then
I got them twice all the time.
Anyway, but the majority still kind of remains 7 seats.
No, the majority
now it's going to be a 7
is a progressive majority.
If
it's
you
a progressive majority. The mayor.
Katie Cashman is progressive compared
to
what's his name.
And she was backed by Minneapolis for the Many.
Scott Graham.
She was backed by Minneapolis for the Many, the coalition that was put together to oppose all of Minneapolis as being out of touch and with the city. When I think that, so it was a good night for all of Minneapolis. So shout out to Wintana Melikin, friend of the program, who did a lot of work on that team. It was a good effort at defining opponents and defining what the future of the state is, the future of the city. I think that the council president will definitely not be Andrea Jenkins again. Who rises is yet to be seen, but hopefully it'll be someone. I think one of the biggest misses of the last term of the city council was to have a council president in place right after strong mayor passed. You have a council president who was not serving as a voice of balance in the administration. She's been sort of completely aligned with the mayor, which is fine on some things or another. But I think a healthy government has checks and balances, and so we cannot have a council.
That was nowhere more apparent than the photos from last night, where Jacob was just every photo he was just sitting nervously at Andrea's party, looking at results. I mean, he was. I think a lot was riding on for him, Andrea staying on the council.
So if not Councilmember Jenkins for president, is there a logical person who you see kind of successing her?
All I know is that
a lot of new people, right? A lot of new people.
There's
in
a
that.
couple
if there's
of them,
a progressive majority, there's a lot of new people there.
My council member Elliot Payne won with 90% of the vote, so I think Elliot for council president. Over here in Northeast, we're just, chipping along.
Giddy up. Now, before we get into all of the W's for the Democrats, what happened in Duluth is interesting. So Very progressive, kind of one of the people considered to be the next big thing up there. Mayor Emily Larson did not did not win the DFL endorsement. She was going up against Roger Reinert, former state senator, military guy, city council person, more moderate, more kind of aligned with business. And at the time,
correction, Brian. She was DFL endorsed. She did not
win the primary.
The primary. I apologize.
So two of them advanced, but he beat her in the primary.
Thank you for correcting me. So in any event, but kind of the narrative after that happened, and I do appreciate being corrected, was that Reinert had kind of made this unholy alliance with Republicans and with pro-business people, and at the end of the day, that it was not going to carry forward to the general election, but it did quite handily, like if not 60-40, close to 60-40. And some of the narratives coming down from the Iron Range are interesting. In that, because Emily Larson, certainly her career in politics doesn't have to be over, but she did have a lot of momentum to kind of be one of the next kind of DFL stars. And at the time, this is before Republicans lost literally everything else. At the time, I was like, oh well, this will be a message for progressive Democrats that the whole state isn't Minneapolis, and that you can't discount that people in different regions don't have the exact same wants, needs, and values. And I do think that is true, and that there was some traditional mayoring with roads and snow removal and things like that ultimately, it actually was almost a referendum on actual local politics, and you can argue whether they got it right or got it wrong. But what I was surprised was not that people were singing the praises of Emily Larson, because like I said, she was very popular and like I said, very, very, very much going to be the next big thing, but being kind of dismissive of Roger Reinert, with the Star Tribune calling him untested when he had been on the council and in the state Senate, and in Afghanistan. Say whether he should win or lose, that's up to
well,
the
fighting
people.
a war doesn't really give you the ability to be a mayor.
But he's been tested.
Yeah, but it has been tested.
But
I mean, the idea is that there's no more pressure than being in a
But some of the critique of him is that he seems to jump around quite a bit. Didn't he resign from one of his offices before he was done? I read an article that was like one of the things.
But he served for multiple terms in the Senate, and
here's what's going to happen. I think in Duluth, you live in a city that is next to a gigantic lake. You're always going to have shitty roads. You're always because you have like warm weather here and cold weather here, or vice versa. They're going to have this dude for 4 years or whatever, and then they'll swing again. Their city council does this too, where they like swing back and forth because you live in a place that probably people shouldn't live and build a city. Like, you can't make the roads in Duluth good. Like that's, and honestly, it's easy. I think it's much easier to blame if the roles were reversed. I think it's so easy to say, oh, this woman's had this job for 2 times. We're done now. We'll move on to something else. And it's easy to come in from the outside and say, look, he also had 3 donors who gave him all his money, and they were all very MAGA Republicans.
So I wanted to say, first of all, he didn't resign. He just didn't run for re-election, which is totally fine. Second of all, Roger was a DFL senator for years. I think that this really just came down to people just simply, on all the small things that mayors should pay attention to, people felt like she didn't do her job. And I think making it about more than that isn't like, it's just trying to like obfuscate and make excuses for like she didn't get the job done that Duluth wanted her to get done. I'm just as like, I can be ticked off about the St. Paul sales tax, but the results were 60-40 and I lost. And the same thing here, it's just an excuse. Roger is well known in the area, and by the way, I was up there a lot this summer. I was talking to a lot of people, and it was multiple things that came up that were very about the mayor. And I went to like the Duluth Air Show, and a volunteer for the Duluth Air Show just handing out programs was Roger Reinert, and he wasn't even campaigning. He's just super in the community. So, you know,
Right. Yeah. No. And he was he was on the Duluth City Council, and right. Like I think
yeah,
that,
he's a hard, tough candidate for her.
On this show, and like, you know, when it was on Almanac, I think Brian, you said this, and then Fritz was saying on Almanac that Republicans are watching this race to figure out how to message against the DFL machine, and I think that, just following exactly on what you're saying, Amy, I think that I'm not sure what lessons Republicans can take from this race other than to surreptitiously support a Democrat. Like because his money was Republican. I think we'll see what that means in terms of how he governs. Yeah. But like, as Shannon Watson is saying on our Facebook page right now, there are not enough Republicans in Duluth to make that 60% number. I think that exactly yeah. Right. But like, and we'll see, and maybe he will disappoint all his Republican donors. We could hope so. He'll either disappoint his Republican donors or disappoint Democratic voters.
But see, here's what I don't get: is the mayor is not a partisan thing. It's just not. And
well, I mean,
supposed to be.
It's not supposed to be. I mean, if you're doing the mayor job,
every elected
who let this idiot on the podcast?
Yeah, really.
Come on.
She just
grow up.
It's not supposed.
Shut up, Amy.
You are in your lane as a mayor. Nobody knows where you stand on politics. So just blah.
Nobody knows where your mayor stands on politics.
No.
Listen,
Yes.
I'm the only one allowed to be high on the show today.
Mayor Nactaborn of Buffalo, nobody knew where he stood on politics. Still don't know.
Yeah, I think it's safe to say that we can't transfer. I think it's safe to say that we can't transfer your experience of Buffalo to the entire rest of the state.
Really?
Yeah.
Why?
To the entire rest of the
Because
state.
it's to be dismissed? Because it's greater Minnesota? Because it's a small town? Because it's a...
No, it's just because what you're saying is dumb.
No. You guys just want an activist city council and defund the police and all the bullshit. And we'll see.
I think nowadays, I think in the current climate, it would be hard to have. I see what you're saying. I think in smaller towns, a lot of people on both sides of the aisle care about the same things. But I think in modern day, it's tough to have.
I think that people in St. Paul care about the same things. People want their roads plowed. People want their streets fixed, right?
That's why they voted for that.
Exactly. Because they can't get it any other way except to give more money. Despite the millions and millions of dollars being spent.
My favorite comment from a prominent Iron Range DFLer was, well, it's not going to be as snowy this year, so Reinert's going to get a free pass. It's like,
they've been dipped into the Farmer's Almanac.
Yeah. Poor Richard up there. Got a nor'easter blowing in.
It's going to be. I thought they said it was going to be warmer temps, but it might still be a lot of.
Farmer's Almanac.
Yeah, I thought. We should sometimes with warmer temps, you get a lot of snow.
The weather
and isn't there a lake effect up there? I mean, there's no way to tell.
I don't think the Farmer's Almanac even has any idea about lake effect.
Lake in a said never gives.
I'm telling you, that's an uninhabitable place.
It's lovely and.
In summer.
Duluthians.
In summer.
Duluthians. Look, the DFL doesn't even think you should be allowed to live there. So
it's nice for 2 weeks.
All right, let's move on to the rest of the country.
I don't wanna.
It's all good news.
I want to stay in Duluth. Let's just stay in Duluth. It's beautiful.
And a lot of people could say, well, it's a year out from the election, and it's interesting because at the same time this week where we got like the poll on the swing states, right? So the New York Times recently had a poll this week that came out, was it the beginning? Yeah, it's been since we were on last Wednesday, that showed Trump not just leading in the generic ballot or in the ballot, the national ballot, which, is easily dismissed because that's not how we do things. We have an electoral college and it'll be swing states, right? But in 6 swing states, 5 out of the 6, Trump had a handy lead. He was in Pennsylvania, Michigan, Georgia, Arizona, and Nevada. And he had 4 to 5 points in most of them, and he had 11 points in Nevada. There was only one of the swing states, Wisconsin, where Biden was leading, and he was leading by 2 points. So I got that poll, and I was like, Well, I was surprised, I think, as anyone was. And I thought,
'cause
well,
Amy and I were with a senator this morning, and they kind of like asked what we thought about the elections, and I said that it's just hard to reconcile the Democrat wins that were significant yesterday, with the feeling, and I think DFLers have bought into this as well, that Biden is doing poorly and that a Trump presidency is once again very possible. I can believe one or the other. I have a hard time believing both. Not that we don't live in an insane time, because we do, but it seems hard to think that people are going to, and maybe it's just that the MAGA people didn't vote in the off year. It could be that.
But see, this is what this is. And so I've been thinking a lot about this, because like we went into yesterday's election with this, this moment of a lot of Democrats freaking out because Biden right now looks in polls the way that Barack Obama looked in polls up against Mitt Romney at this point. What I keep telling myself, and I feel like this is confirmed in yesterday's results, right? That Democrats have been outperforming in special elections for the last 2 years in a race. They are outperforming their expectations, winning bigger or winning unexpected races. And I think that there has been a shift in the electorate, particularly since Dobbs. And I've heard lots of pollsters talking about this as more of like a fundamental shift that I think what I'm wondering is happening is that because the thing about the polls with him leading key swing states with the turnout models was that the turnout models are predicting that Republicans are going to be more energized to turn out to vote than Democrats are. And what we're seeing in election after election, and we saw it yesterday, that in particular that right now the issue cut that voters go into the voting booth thinking about is what saves Democrats, and like over and over again. And there is no good solution right now on the Republican side for what to do about abortion. Glenn Youngkin thought that he had figured it out, that he was going to run on a 15-week ban and he was going to flip the legislature. Well, what he did was motivate Democratic voters who are pro-choice to say, how about you keep the state out of a woman and her doctor's business, and right now I think the Republicans are in a really bad spot on that, and so yes, what I'm seeing in these numbers and see happening is and somewhat I'd say mature electorate of just looking at a whole set of issues, who are the people who support us on these issues and who are the people that do not.
Well, sorry. You go ahead.
Here's what I would say. I'd take it a step further from what you're saying, Javier, and just name that it's women. And that Republicans have no message for women. They have no base with women. They barely have women representing them. And I say that with a hurt in my heart and knowing that 10 years ago, we were doing better than we are doing now. 10 years ago, 15 years ago, we were doing better than we're doing right now. And I think it is not being reflected in polls. It certainly wasn't reflected in 2022 because everyone went, what? The polls were not reflecting what happened. And at the time I said it was women are 7 times more likely to kill with poison because it's just no fuss, no muss. We don't make a scene. We just get the job done. And that's what happened with that election. Yes.
I'm sorry. I've got to tell you, we told you then, and we'll tell you again now. That is a very weird analogy.
Well, it's how we just quietly.
Well, when Amy offers you something to eat or drink, you better be careful.
Yeah, just be careful.
I'm just saying we quietly get things done. And I swear, Eric and Kathy were like, "What is she?"
I get what she's saying, though. She's saying
we quietly get the job done. We are not going to make a fuss. We are not going to make a mess.
I've heard Amy say that multiple times today.
And the fact that 2 men here don't freaking get it, not surprised.
I get it. No, I didn't say
not surprised.
But also
they'll never see it coming.
in the Republicans are kidding themselves.
It must be my time of the month.
In the
right? God.
Anyway, moving on.
Whatever.
As the podcast HR department, move on. But in the Republicans are kidding themselves department, it's first of all, I want to say obviously whenever we're talking polls, all four of us agree that polls are garbage, and certainly polls a year out are nothing but for entertainment purposes. So I'm not trying to put more weight in these polls. It's a podcast. We got to find something to talk about. But but as far as the not being able to reconcile at all, for Republicans that were really like looking at these midterms or the off year and trying to like find a way to see it ending well for Republicans, what about having Trump be the presumptive nominee and then all of the bullshit around the Speaker of the House debacle, which landed on weird Speaker Johnson, made us think that we're back on track. No, it's fumble after fumble after fumble, and I think that both parties are better when you have conservative Democrats and moderate Republicans, and that we allow all of these people to actually be in the party, and we don't. And if there's not, I'll just speak for our side, there's not strict adherence to a certain tone and tenor, you get mocked, kicked out, or dismissed. And I'm telling you, everybody, Republicans, closed circuit to Republicans, we're next year is not going to be better. And certainly in the state of Minnesota, which is why I care the most, you have a chance to take the House back. But looking at the map and looking at what potentials are there, we have to find a way to make some of these blue or at least light blue seats a lot more gettable. And I want them to be gettable, but looking at a map, it's hard to see where all the pickups are other than a few obvious ones. And that means we have to change what we say and how we say it, not just wait for the Democrats to screw it up. They might. They've done it before, but that's a bad strategy.
Right. If we're
and
always
it's no
just
strategy.
We're always waiting for it. We have to change what we're saying, how we're saying it, and who is saying it.
I mean,
it's not a message problem. You guys keep saying that, but there's a fundamental policy program on issues of choice that like because a moderate position is not speakable in your party.
Well, but that's a message problem. It's just not allowed. Because if you can disagree with empathy.
Position?
Well, I didn't say.
What is the policy
I said a message, because you can have a message that isn't 100% agreed upon by people who will vote for you if you can message it in a way that promotes empathy, and that they believe that you disagree, but you're a good person who agrees with them on other things. You're not wrong. There's definitely the policy that voters are endorsing is not what the Republicans want it to be. They don't want that, but they're also doing nothing but hurting themselves if they don't listen to the people a little bit more.
Well, because it's also not just about abortion for women, right? It's about what's coming next? No, it's not. It's what's coming next. Is it going to be about birth control? Is it going to be about, and when you have someone like, remember Matt Burke saying, that there's a culture of abortion and it's about what women wear and that they decide to go to work. Like, there is deep concern amongst women because it hasn't really been that long since we've been able to make decisions for ourselves and have a checkbook, right? There's a deep concern that you're coming for not just abortion, but also all of it, right? And then statements by people like what Matt Burke said the moment that that Gomez decision was handed down just plays into that. Or you have Republicans that talk about legitimate rape, and you have guys that saying, well, it just goes on and on. Or you have a victim of incest or rape, and well, they just have to, it's a baby. Okay, yes, but there's also a mom there. Like there's just a sense that the women in this equation don't matter at all to the guys making the decisions. That's all.
And I applaud Youngkin for trying to find a middle ground. It failed. It didn't work. But I think that his job as governor is not just to say my way or the highway. He tried to find a moderate position that maybe the middle of both sides could agree on, and it didn't work.
Let's be real. I think he took a big gamble to try to move the party, like for him to be to be king. I was like, oh, here's a different path here, right? But like, I think the reality is I don't know if you all saw the ad that was run against the Republican in Kentucky. It was like on behalf of Bashir. It was a young woman who was raped by her stepfather. And looking at the camera and addressing the candidate directly and say, your belief that a victim of child sexual abuse or of incest should have to carry a child to term is unconscionable. And it was like a very big hit, emotional impact of the ad. And I think that you're going to keep seeing things like that because the policy position that Republicans have to go through, like there's nothing reasonable coming out of it when it comes to conventions or primaries and such, because the party base is so far out of line with the rest of the country.
Well, and some of the, we're talking about what a great night it was for Democrats. We really kind of didn't talk about all the things we're talking about. What we're saying is that in Virginia, both the Democrats were able to hold on to their narrow majority in the Virginia Senate, and then they flipped the House of Delegates. Is that what they call it there?
And which, by the way, that wasn't really on people's bingo card, right? That was hold the Senate was what they were hoping for.
Yeah, they were thinking that there was a good chance that the Republicans could have the trifecta,
could take the Senate,
and that didn't happen. In Kentucky, sitting Democratic Governor Bashir, he won. And then also
which you could almost discount as like he's incredibly popular.
Yeah, he's
very moderate, but you have to see it in the context of what was just the ad that Javier was just talking about, plus like it's in the whole of everything that happened last night, right? It'd be easy to discount one of those races.
And then Ohio voted to legalize weed and
put abortion in their constitution.
In their constitution. And that doesn't mean that Kentucky's going to go blue in the next election. It doesn't mean that Ohio's going to go blue. But that means that there are people who are voting red on other issues who also went out and voted yes on these things. And before you send the emails, you can send them. I like attention. But Amy and I are pro-life. I'm not saying that Amy and I all of a sudden said, you know what, we've seen the light. We're pro-choice now because that's the political wins that it is. That's not it at all. Our politics and our faith, tell us something different than that. However, we're on here. It's a political podcast talking about politics, talking about winning elections, and that is very much what we're talking about. That the messaging and the attitude needs to change. And I'll let you speak in 1 second, Javier. But like with Governor Youngkin, he tried something new policy-wise. It didn't work, but he tried something.
Yeah, I guess my question for you all, though, is that, because I just strongly believe, right, that on this issue, that overturning Roe was Republicans, was the dog catching the ambulance and not knowing what the hell to do. Like that, I think what it has woken up in voters is an awareness, and especially in women voters. The last time Roe v. Wade was when Roe v. happened, it was before the age of social media. And cultural mores have changed a lot about what you share about your personal life. So people go through pregnancies in a much more public way than they did in the past, and they did certainly in 1973. And so the stories are just a constant drip that showing the American public how abortion, when you take abortion off the table, it makes all of pregnancy care a lot more complicated, because things that people don't think of as abortions are a necessary part of OBGYN care, because sometimes things happen, you have an ectopic pregnancy, et cetera, all these things. And so so there's a very real problem that Republicans have that I think voters are have learned that lesson, holy crap, this impacts all these other things. And so then what is the Republican policy position? Because it continues to be bans. And I think that the lesson from Youngkin, right, is no matter, you can call your ban whatever you want. People are going to hear it as a ban, and people are going to understand that it complicates and makes unnecessarily difficult and challenging the reproductive health choices of women in their state. And outside of the issue of whether you want to get an abortion to end an unwanted pregnancy, that it just messes up OBGYN. Right now, the number of states that are that have vacancies of OBGYNs. They're deserts of OBGYN care, because you can't get people to work in states where they can't take care of their patients. I mean, this is really going to be like, where this goes for you all is just going to be fascinating, because someone's going to have to make the policy leap to make being pro-choice acceptable in the Republican Party.
Well, which is also interesting because, and this was before my time in the Republican Party, but not so much before that, where I had family friends that were Democrats that were pro-life, and they were going to the conventions, and they were hardcore Democrats, and you had pro-choice people in the Republican Party. The first, in the 1970s, the first woman elected to the Senate, Nancy Bradis, was very vocally pro-choice, and so that used to not be a defining party platform, and I don't know. Honestly, it was before my time when that became sort of like a line in the sand. But there was a point, and I don't know, it was the 80s or the 90s, where it sort of like became you cannot have a nuanced position.
I can tell you what happened. It's when people merged their religious views, which you should never compromise, with their political views, which by definition you have to compromise. You should be willing to trade A to get B. That's politics. That's the motor mechanism of politics. That's what moves things along. But once you make your religious views and your political views the same, there's nowhere to go from that. I mean, Jim Ramstad, it was one of the most powerful, most well-loved Republican congressmen, certainly of our lifetimes. He was pro-choice. My first year working at the Minnesota State House of Representatives was 2000, and we had people like Jim Rhodes and Peggy Leppick. There were pro-choice Republicans, as there were pro-life Democrats. Yes. I remember that there were
Mary Ellen
Otremba. She would not vote for a DFL speaker who was pro-choice, but she was a DFL, elected member of the House of Representatives. And I'm not saying that all of those things are how I believe, but it allowed for coalitions to exist, which meant that you could put together, coalitions to get certain things done. And it was allowed, and to a certain extent, it was celebrated, and then it was forbidden. And it just makes politics not work for the people the way it's supposed to be, because ideologues on both sides are just stridently unwilling to leave their positions, even if they will talk to you out in the hall or in a back room, say, yeah, I don't really believe this, or I don't think it's that big of a deal, and then go on and do a fiery speech on it. It's fine. That's political theater, but it's not how you get things done.
Well, and it definitely weighed in this election cycle, and it's not likely to go away for next election cycle.
Nope.
Right?
Nope. All right. Should we move on to Spanks and things? Or plugs?
Plugs.
Who's got plugs?
You can catch Brian and I Tuesdays on the BS podcast. And just thank you to WCCO Channel 4, Esme Murphy, Caroline Cummings, who had me on last night calling the election results. It's super fun to do. And again, this morning, kind of doing some recap or some with Caroline. It's super fun. Really enjoy it. And hope to be there for the next election, which will be a big one.
Yeah. I will be on At Issue with Tom Hauser this Sunday, talking about what we're talking about here. But also, I just want to, this is not really a plug, but last Thursday, I was up at Breezy Point, and I was very, honestly touched that the local Public Health Association of Minnesota gave me their Legislative Leadership Award. I had been working with their organization for a number of years, and we had some historic gains in passing our agenda over the last years. I did not deserve it, because they were the ones telling their story and showing their how important their core functions of government were. I just stood behind them and made funny jokes, but I was honestly moved, and the award means something to me because those people mean something to me. So thank you very much to the local Public Health Association of Minnesota. I know some of them listen, and I'm glad to continue our partnership in making Minnesota safer. So, Javier or Davis?
I can go first. Okay. My thank is to the good people of Virginia. They did a lot of good last night, but particularly in Albemarle County, Virginia. I'm probably pronouncing that wrong. They probably say it Albemarle. They had a school board race, and Antonin Scalia's daughter was running and was somewhat trying to run away from her, as she calls it, my maiden name. But she is a Republican, and she had been endorsed by the Republicans there, and then asked them to take it down off their website. But she was running against Allison Spillman. Her name is Meg S. Bryce, S for Scalia. And Allison Spillman, they were running for the school board, and Allison Spillman kind of really handily defeated her, 62 to 38% of the vote. And Allison Spillman was very openly for, not censoring what kids read, not having people's religious ideas in schools. She was very much for, letting kids be kids and letting parents decide what their kids should learn. And way to go, voters of Albemarle County, Virginia. And then my spank, guys, this Mike Johnson fella, he's a lunatic. So my spank is for Mike Johnson.
You can be creepy and not crazy.
The Speaker of the House. I think he's both. And his...
Because he's an adult black son?
No, that's not it. He, in a clip from way back in 2022, so not that long ago, he openly admitted to he and his son being each other's accountability partners, his child son, his 17-year-old son, and how they use the app Covenant Eyes, which is a third-party app that monitors all of their phones, their computers. I want you to think about if Nancy Pelosi had said, me and my daughter have an app where we store all of our porn that we look at.
No, it just tracks if they look at porn.
No, it stores what they look at
I'm not defending.
Because he said, and my son has a clean slate. And my first response was, well, do you? And then I was like, no one should know this. I don't want any third party to be able to figure out the Speaker of the House's spank bank, because this man could easily be blackmailed. So the fact that this is not disqualifying, the fact that this man allows a third party to monitor every one of his devices and his son's, and then they accountability check for each other.
You mean blackmailed like his adult son?
No, and that's not his son. That's just a young man that he took in, and it was too much work to adopt him.
A lot of paperwork involved.
But anyway, I think it is lunacy, and I think that if the shoe was on the other foot, Republicans would be having a fit about the information technology possible breaches. But somewhere on the Covenant Eyes database is Mike Johnson's spank bank. So good luck. Enemies of the state, go find it.
Javier, I think we actually didn't allow you to do your plugs if you had any, so I apologize.
No, that's all right. I don't have any plugs, and I don't have any audience members to be right because we don't have any new members of the Not a Dick Club.
No.
I go off on you, but my back hurts. I'll just tell
See what you did? You hurt his back.
The stress does not help. So, patreon.com/wrongaboutitpodcast to become a patron of our. I'm going to do a double thank. One, a story I don't think that we've talked about. But Politico this past week did a story about they consulted 3 expert shoemakers to ask them this very important question: is Governor Ron DeSantis high heels? Seems to suggest
it's a yes.
I think we're losing Javier, though.
Shoot.
My first
I think we lost you.
Yeah,
I
you're
think
frozen.
I think we lost you, Javier.
It's another thing St. Paul can't do, internet.
Yeah.
Oh, see,
All right.
Hey,
don't get me started. Let's raise taxes more.
Their internet is garbage.
I took myself off camera. Is this better?
Javier, shoot.
No, we
So,
lost
well,
you.
why don't I go and then see if Javier
Yeah,
comes
yeah,
back?
Yeah,
there you
okay.
go.
All right. So my I don't know if it's a spank or a thank, but Dean Phillips just recently tweeted out an apology to Bernie Sanders, and I just wanted to highlight it. Dean Phillips says, "I have an apology to make to Bernie Sanders. I had long dismissed his complaints about the rigged Democratic Party primary system, but you know what? You know what? He was right, and I apologize, Bernie. Voter suppression." Parentheses, New Hampshire, candidate suppression, parentheses, ballot access, and debate suppression. So you're among the majority of Democrats who want change. Please visit dean24.com and help us create the change. So there you go. An
all
apology
Now
to
he's
Bernie
Bernie
Sanders.
Sanders?
Yeah.
No, he just apologized to
He
him for
said,
being right.
Bernie,
You were right.
we're getting suppressed.
You were right. All right. So I don't know exactly that's a spank or a thank. I'm not sure what it is, but friend of the podcast, Dean Phillips, tweeting out apologies to Bernie Sanders merits some attention, I think. My thank is for the folks that submitted to the Minnesota state flag. So you're allowed. They're changing up the Minnesota state flag. They feel like it was outdated, a little complicated, a little busy, which I get. I'm a little bit old fashioned, as people know, but. I think so. First of all, go do yourself a favor. Go to NPR's got a story. They call it Minnesota State Flag Unfurled, where they have listed submissions. Some of them are they're quite impressive. They're quite beautiful. Put a lot of work in. Others not so much. Here's a loon shooting laser beams out of its eyes while it floats on some
That's
water.
like a whole genre. Like
Yeah,
there were.
There was lots of laser loons.
Pew, pew, laser
pew, pew.
loons, laser loons. There's a few. One's just a picture of someone's desk. Here's one that looks like it was drawn on a whiteboard, probably by someone who's a little bit younger. I don't know who the face is.
And Jewish.
I don't know if that. Well, there's a star of the North.
Or they only know how to make the stuff.
I do want to call out, and I didn't want to do this because it's obviously a young person, but flag submission F2115 did spell Minnesota incorrectly on the flag. It's Minesota. So thank you for the submission, but you did spell wrong. Here's someone who just apparently took a picture of their desk.
That could have
and
been my
submitted
dad
it.
trying
That
to work his
must have-
iPhone.
That's F41.
They probably made a really good one, and
Probably did, and then
they
they're just like,
accidentally.
Dang it. But now it's too late, I think, to submit, but there's a picture of the desk. Anyway, do yourself a favor because there really are some very cool flags. And then there are some that will just make it's like American Idol, right?
Yeah.
The really good ones are going to get attention, and the, maybe the ones that are a little bit on the struggle bus looking.
As a non-Minnesotan, my favorite one was the one that just said "bag" on it.
Yeah,
B-A-
bag,
B-A-Y-G. Because I don't know why no one in the state can
Here's-
say a short A
Here's
sound.
another
Yeah, it
loon,
is
and
weird.
it's shooting laser beams at a walleye.
Oh.
So,
I like it. I like it.
Anyway,
I like
thanks.
the two ducks and the gray duck.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah, that was a good one.
Excellent. So anyway, check out the Minnesota state flag submissions. It's entertaining and fun.
I didn't like
and
our-
thanks
sorry.
to everyone who participated.
I didn't like our flag. It wasn't something like I thought it should be something that kids could draw. And I understand some of the problematic aspects of it. I just please, the people who are making this decision, just don't make it too weird. I mean,
Yeah.
I'm willing
Yeah.
to support a new flag. Just don't make it weird.
Don't make it weird.
Don't make
Keep
it
just-
weird.
Yeah, simple, lovely. Here, look at this one. It's a pretty loon floating.
Yeah.
I don't know what color
That's
that
a
is. I'm
nice one,
colorblind.
yeah.
Yeah, isn't that nice? Like, just do something simple. Anyway, oh, look at them all. They're
Like whoever's running the governor's Twitter these days, don't let that person
What's
pick
happening?
because it's weird.
We're gonna have to have a discussion
Oh.
about that.
Oh my
Is
God,
that-
that should be my spank. That should be my spank, actually.
What is happening?
so
Is that the
weird.
governor tweeting?
No,
or-
it can't be. We know the governor. He's not weird that way.
Can we just say specifically the tweet about salsa and
Pecan.
But
People
also
that
about
got
the
ill.
damn dogs. There's a lot of cursing and dangs and darns and
no,
damn.
the damn dog was actually funny though. The salsa one is like, look at all this weird Mexican food. I was like, whoa, what the hell? like, come to my neighborhood. We'll tell you the difference between pico de gallo and salsa.
Yeah.
That was
It's
a very
it's
weird.
not him.
I don't think it's him.
I don't think it's him.
No,
Look,
But
look at
it's,
his past.
if it
like
is,
This past month,
if it
something's gone on.
is, take it away from him. But if it's not, then he needs to there needs to be repercussions and ramifications for somebody because it's weird. Anyway,
Okay,
Javier.
how have we not talked about this yet?
I know. Next week,
Next
that's
week
all we'll talk about next week. We'll put them all up there. Javier, you seem to be back.
Yeah. So my other thank actually is for Republican candidate Doug Burgum. I don't agree with everything he says, but there's some important things in one thing that he said, which was he was talking about the administration's reliance on Qatar in negotiations with Hamas over releasing hostages, and he says that we're funding both sides of this. The connection between Hamas and Qatar is very real. The funding of, the resources come from billionaires in Qatar. I mention this because it would be, if the war in Gaza right now, which is killing thousands and thousands of civilians, is supposed to be to uproot Hamas.
Yes.
That, insofar as there's been any goal, is what Israel has said is their goal. I think, for the record, that's not going to happen. They're not going to uproot Hamas. Why are they not going to uproot Hamas? Because they're in the wrong place. If they want to uproot Hamas, we should be bombing Qatar. If you want to make the funders of Hamas hurt, we should be bombing Qatar. That's, of course, unthinkable. That's not an actual policy proposal I'm making, because, of course, that would lead to a regional conflict and all sorts of things. But the search for simple solutions right now has our government sponsoring and supporting genocide in the West Bank. In Gaza, and actually in the West Bank as well, because the settlers and the extremist settlers in the West Bank are taking this opportunity of the war to attack Palestinian civilians in the West Bank as well. The only solution out of this is going to be a political one. It's not going to be a one of war. I'm terrified every day that we're getting closer and closer to a ground war that the U.S. is a part of, and I strongly think that will happen. And our support for Qatar is an example of the hypocrisy underlying the war effort.
All right. So I will finish up with two thanks. My first thank is to the patron saint of the podcast, Dolly Parton. Dolly Parton, who stays out of politics for the most part, but there's been strong indications of almost kind of a progressive lefty bent, but also her background is very traditionally conservative and religious, and she is doing an album where she is partnering with various rock stars, some of which are considered to be problematic, like the guy from Aerosmith and Kid Rock. And she recently kind of came out with a political statement, kind of defending her association with these people, going back to her Christian faith, saying that everyone deserves second chances, and if God can forgive these people, so can she, and that what people are trying to do, but with cancel culture, she thinks is just horrible. And I want to thank her for kind of stepping into the arena a little bit, because I think she is somebody who has the level of gravitas with people of different walks of life, different regions of the country, all of these things. I think she is somebody who we could learn a little bit more from if she spoke a little bit more on these topics. So I appreciate her specific message, and I appreciate that she is willing to tell people just sit back, listen to music, and stop making everything a cancelable offense. So my thank is to the lovely and talented Dolly Parton.
Can I just throw in there as well that in the last week, Dolly Parton has weighed in on Tennessee's anti-trans laws, and in a very consistent way is saying everyone just get along with each other.
Yeah,
That's always her take, right? And there you go. Dang it. Nice.
Well, when all the statues of Confederate generals and presidents were getting torn down,
Dolly.
I read an article that said that they should replace the Confederate generals with statues of Dolly Parton. And I thought that made a lot of sense because Dolly is a daughter of the South. She does got a lot of good work, and I can't think of anybody that would want to tear down a statue of Dolly Parton,
It's true.
except for that bitch Jolene. Anyway,
You catch him every night at the Laugh Shack.
I'm going to be in Isanti, Minnesota on November 25th. So come on north and hear gems just like that. I actually am going to be in Isanti, Minnesota on the 25th. So come on up. But my second thank is going to be to the Minnesota Supreme Court, who ruled exceedingly fast. This is breaking news from the Star Tribune. Says Minnesota Supreme Court ruled exceedingly fast after hearing oral arguments on Thursday that they are not going to bar Donald Trump from being on the 2024 ballot. There's likely to be an appeal, and that is not. By me saying that is not obviously any kind of endorsement of Donald Trump being the Republicans' nominee. I very much hope that he is not. But I also think that I don't support term limits. I think that people should be able to make bad decisions, and I keep hoping that voters will make better decisions. But I don't want them to take away somebody that people don't like, because eventually you're going to take away somebody that you don't like for the wrong reason. And this is a dangerous precedent to set. And I think people should go to the polling place and vote no. And hopefully it doesn't get to that. But I do think this is the wrong way to defeat Donald Trump. And I applaud that. I haven't been able to. It just came out as we were walking in, so I haven't been able to read the decision. Some friends of mine were working on it, but I'm very thankful that they appear to be dismissing this attempt. So with
that, they dismissed it. Is it with prejudice or without with prejudice? Because
I don't think I said.
Saying that it's not.
I don't think I said with prejudice. I don't.
Yeah, but John was explaining this to me earlier, that they were saying that up before the primary, who the party candidate is entirely up to parties, and so when and if Trump becomes the nominee, that's when this lawsuit will be relevant, so they can bring it up again next.
Oh, okay, that's
after
interesting.
the primary.
And I haven't had a chance to look at it. But anyway. Other than what the Star Tribune put out in their breaking news. So with that, I am conservative strategist and a lover of Dolly Parton, Brian McDaniel.
Gross. I'm small business attorney and a little bit grossed out, Davis Senseman.
I am a former Senate Republican Majority Leader, and the guys on this podcast better watch their backs. Amy Koch.
I will always love you.
I am hoping to be back in studio next week if my back finally fixes itself. Javier Murillo.
And we are wrong about everything. See you next week, everybody.
Come back to us, Javi. Come back to us. Snowing here around the Dean Phillips.